Hello and welcome back to Thoughts per episode, Bleach 1000 Year Blood War Edition. Today we are talking about everything but the rain, which is pretty much the beginning of a small sequel arc to Turn Back the Pendulum way back in the day when we learned about the Vizards. And just like every time Bleach steps into the more slice of life type stuff, it turned out to be really good. And to be honest, by the slice of life stuff, I mostly mean the first half when Ichigo is returning home and then when he runs away and everything. I think something 1000 Year Blood War does really well is atmosphere and portraying the pain that's in Ichigo's soul and like the desolation of like his circumstances, and it's just really cool to see. Also, it's really cool to see Akumi again and all that, and I do love the scene where, you know, someone knocks on her door and she's like, oh, I guess no one was there, but of course Ichigo can see his dad in Soul Reaper form, and it's like, oh fuck. If you're here like that, then we've got some stuff to talk about, huh? I guess what I'm discovering here is that I'm a sucker for a mopey Ichigo, or a badass Ichigo, or I guess any type of Ichigo, which is interesting because when I think about Bleach from an objective standpoint, I don't think that Ichigo as a protagonist is particularly successful, or at least not as interesting or well written as someone like Naruto, for instance. And obviously I'm talking to a bunch of people who are probably major Bleach fans and are about to suddenly be like, hang on a minute, that's not true. But I don't know, like, it feels like, as I've mentioned before, when it comes to Bleach, it tends to repeat itself. And while we're learning new things about Ichigo here, the pattern of him being confident, you know, having a badass opening, being confident, losing, learning something about himself, going through a depression phase, then like he's gonna, you know, we've been through this cycle before. But I guess just on a subjective level, I just love the guy. By the way, there's this little touch with the animation where Ichigo pulls on Ishin's robe at one point when he's getting desperate, being like, why the hell won't you tell me anything, kind of thing. And then Ishin reminds him that you told me I could tell you this whenever I decided to. And Ichigo suddenly like takes a step back and his entire face changes. It's like this moment of like reminding him of this super mature moment he had towards the end of the Aizen arc. And like kind of like subtly pointing out to him that, hey, you're kind of being a child right now. Like, you've regressed, and it's like he realizes that and snaps out of it, which is really, really cool. And then we rewind time, we turn back the pendulum, if you will, and we see Ishin as captain. And I remember reading this in the manga for the first time and being like, oh my god, like, how come this never came up? But obviously, they don't know that Kurosaki's Ishin's son, or they don't really mention it when they do find out, or whatever, you know, it's a whole thing. But it's so cool to see Ishin Shiba. I just realised this is the first time they actually confirmed that he was a Shiba, isn't it? Welcome anime only watchers. Did you pick up on that? He's a Shiba, but we get to see him as the head of squad something. I always lose track of the squads, I'm sorry. The head of Hitsugai's squad and Rangaku's squad, and we got to see a nice slice of the dynamics of that trio. Well, it was kind of mean for Ishin to just straight up come out and say, yeah, Hitsugai's more powerful than you, and if you led the squad, we would be in ruins. That's a bit mean. But I love how his character is portrayed here, because first of all, it's very faithful to later Ishin as we know him, but also, like, he seems younger and more full of life, even though when we do see him he's being goofy most of the time as this like 40-year-old dad or whatever, but he seems like, I don't know, it's just a really good younger version of himself, and I do like that he's hyped up to be extremely powerful as well. Although Engetsu, I've got to say, just kind of seems like a Shikai that's just, it's my sword but it's got fire around it, and we've already seen one of those and it was better than his. But yeah, in this episode we also get introduced to the revelation that Masaki stayed with Ryu, you know, Ishida, and was meant to marry him at some point, and there's a whole love triangle going on between them and the servant. And there's all this politics going on of like certain bloodlines must stay pure, and you have certain things that you're not supposed to be doing because they're below your station, and it's pretty cool stuff. I kind of wish that this got expanded out to be more of its own anime at some point, but I don't think that'll happen. I don't think there's particularly any more story to tell there. I just think it's a cool setting for an anime. And then of course we have the battle with White, and yeah, the way he just like it slices off like half the head of that guy is so brutal, because the rest of the episode up until that point has been pretty non-violent, and then just out of nowhere you're reminded, oh yeah, this is Bleach, by the way, this is Thousand Year Blood War as well, by the way, so we can get away with this stuff. And Isshin versus White wasn't the most involved fight, but I wasn't really expecting it to be. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun to watch by regular standards. I think it does a good job of showcasing both of their strength. Like, Ishin's already been built up to be the super powerful person, so the fact that White is, keeping him on his toes shows us that White is extremely powerful. It's mentioned that he has the power of a menace, but then Ishin doesn't get the floor wiped with him, so he cuts off White's arm, so it's not like they're not evenly matched. It was also really fun to see Aizen and Gang, Aizen and the Hogyoko squad plotting again, like we've seen them do before. But I think the thing that was coolest in this episode was Masaki just like sheathing her bow or whatever and letting White chomp her arm so that she could then resummon it and blow his head off, which is obviously something we've seen in the manga, but it was so well animated and well produced and directed, and like everything that you need to come together to make a good adaptation, with like the soundtrack and the voice acting and the animation. It was all just great. And one touch I really liked as well, I don't know if it's in the manga or not, but when Ishin goes to shield Masaki from the explosion of White's self-destruct, he darts in front of him, and then you see the explosion from afar, but it's like an explosion that's kind of like half been cut off to show just like A, the size of the explosion and the intensity of it, but B, how effective Ishin was at shielding Masaki from it. So yeah, I had a really fun time with this episode, and I'm really excited to see next week, because next week, don't we have like an hour-long double bumper special? Which is pretty cool, because next week will also be, I believe, Boxing Day, because I'm a day late on this one. I don't know if Japan has Boxing Day. I know America doesn't, but here in the UK, we have Boxing Day, which is basically just the day after Christmas, where you sit around, eat the leftovers, and feel very sleepy. So it'll be fun to be watching Bleach on a day like that. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to this episode. Let me know what you thought, if you like the video if you liked it, and I will see you next week for the final episode of Season 1. I'm going to miss this show. People have been saying they want it back in April. I think maybe I want them to take their time with it, because I would rather have quality episodes like the ones we've had over a reduction in quality, because this needs to be done right, and so far it's being done right. Anyway, I'm gonna go now.